the overview of BIM, what's happening on the ground, and then to see the mechanics, that pragmatic, view of how it actually works. So a good mixture all around. Any questions for the speakers? We've got about 10 minutes.
Yeah,
usually get a debate, right? Yeah.
The model builds up a lot of data, and in the context of the QS, how does your program deliver that data without data loss to the QS? What products does the QS use? What programs does he use?
Well, I suppose from the Autodesk side of things, like we have a product called QTO, but which again is just a quantity takeoff product. So it will look at the walls, we'll get areas, that type of thing, material areas. But also, I suppose, you could actually use the Revit program itself to take the quantities off.
Yeah, I could probably address that.
Yeah. I'm thinking of they love QSs love buildsoft.
Yeah.
And
what you saw just at the end there was the interoperability nature of the software. You could see Primavera, you could see Microsoft Project. There was that the systems were talking to each other. And similarly, the QS software, we actually have a BuildSoft rep here. Maybe George might take that question, but.
Well, just say, applications such QS applications such as BuildSoft, CastX, whatever, will have modules that will integrate and interrogate the DWF file and extract the information into those applications. So any QS application worth its salt will be able to interrogate these files.
Our students unfortunately use CostX with Revit to create their quantities. And now the whole problem with quantities is the trust that the figures are correct. What this technology is going to do in time is going to take the risk out of making errors in regard to quantification and focus on the price. Because it's the price that's important. It's whatever you multiply the quantity by. Yeah. So you can get very accurate quantities from Autodesk, but put rubbish in, you get rubbish out. Yeah. So but the software and Trevor, you've another quantity surveyor.
Yeah,
you've
just
worked
on
with
the CITA BIM workshop. We're looking at Revit and QTO, and what we're hoping to do on that is produce stage 1 and stage 2A cost plans. And KSN, the surveyors on the project, I'm acting as a consultant to them, reckon that for them to produce a stage 2A cost plan on an A-class classroom school will take, they reckon, around 2 weeks between pulling information from all sources and that. We're hoping that we'll produce it in significantly less than 2 days. And we're going to use Revit, extract the information into an Access database, and then crunch it in Access and throw it into Excel, into the Department of Education's template. But the key there is coding. We're going to put in a parameter for the National Standard Building Element that will tag the different families with an element code, either element 19 or 21 or 22. And we're going to try and use an NBS keynode reference to link up to a schedule of rates. But I mean, Excel, Access, they're all tools you can use with Revit once you take your schedule information in. CostX, QTO, Normatec, Costos, BuildSoft, any of them. The one thing we'll be missing is a visual link, but any of the applications allow you to take in the model in a read-only format and click on individual items, and it has the intelligence to group them into 100 block work or whatever. So.
But the real work is getting the software integrated with the national codes of practice.
It's trying to figure out how the EIN ties in if you are producing the quantities and you automate, and yes, it can be automated. I mean, there has been a lot of work done out there. Building smart lines have a lot of work done on quantities and takeoff.
Any other questions?
Sorry, how do you deal with data transfer? I mean, it's very processor hungry, Revit as a package, and you have different disciplines all over the country or all over a city, and you have a single model entity, and different people are working different aspects of the model, and with network connections being what they are, it isn't always the.
Yeah, well, I suppose in a single office environment, yes, there will be a central model that everybody will be working from. So that's in a single office environment. That's how you would manage the data in there. So you're not obviously, you know, working on the whole model at one time, you're working on part of it. So that's again in a single. But again, when you have offices dotted around the country, then you're looking at employing something like Revit Server. So that then will allow you to share a central model amongst various offices. And again, the workshop Ralph talked about, that's how they have it set up. So each office has a Revit server installed, running 24/7 pretty much. And then they work on their model, but they also have access to all the other models. So you have an architectural model, a Revit structure. But again, you said a point like, you know, how do you find, I suppose, the bandwidth and that? Does that affect the data?
Well, it's only a delta. It's only a delta that's exchanging. It's not exchanging the 400 or 200 or the 1 gig model. It's just the component that changes. There's intelligence built into Revit Server that it's watching the file and seeing what is the delta, what has changed. So it's not an entire model that's been transferred. You know, I mean, you can go IFC and FTP, but it's laborious. I mean, ArchiCAD has good model sharing stuff built in as well, but it's the delta that a lot of the applications are trying to focus on, not exchanging the entire model at the same time.
What's delta?
Delta is just a change. It's just the changes that in the model. A lot of the online backup software does the same, I think.
Like a lot of the platforms for data transfer, you know, where you're on a Citrix platform or whatever platform you're working on for transferring data, where you're trying to have a centralized source of information, and you're just doing delta changes, which are just screen dumps and screen changes. We still haven't got the broadband technology. You know, like in our company, we have a head office in Dublin, and okay, there is a ring main in Dublin, whereas, you know, you can get on the highway and it's quite good. But you try and get a link from our office in Cork to Dublin, you try and get 4 guys working on across a Citrix platform where you're not really doing huge number crunching, and it's just a joke.
Yeah,
An absolute joke.
I think the Revit server seems to work well. Ralph would know more about it, that it's been set up in there's a server, essentially a PC with a dual core processor, Windows 7 and the Revit server, and it sits in your office. So you'd have one in Cork, and that would then synchronize changes as they're made over and back. It wouldn't be Citrix. You know, you wouldn't be running Revit on the server in Dublin locally.
Technology like Citrix, where you actually have the model in your office.
Yeah.
Each office has a model in their office, and it's an application running in the background that's just keeping different models synced in the background. So when the users locally save, they are just saving to a local model, and then they can carry on working. So that there's no time lapse. And then Revit Server, which is just an application in the background, is keeping these.
Is that effectively what they call cloud BIM? Is that it? No.
Not really.
No. Was it not? It's not the next step. Where you basically you pull your model from the web, and you work on the model, and that's the next step. I mean,
we'll be able to report on this because this is the first time we're using this.
So you just put models
with the whole design
online,
team, across the internet at the workshop. But I mean, it's so far with what we've done, it's working fine because it's, as I said, it's not a virtual technology. We're just trying to get screen grabs and mouse clicks over the internet, and then we tried that as well. But as you say, the internet connection.
It'd be great to have that workshop you talked about down in Cork and over in Galway as well, so the people locally could drop in to see it as well. You know, because
you're looking at fibre really as a medium. That's what we found, that you really need to be on fibre to get the power out of the connectivity across the platforms that we're working with.
You don't need that. I mean, it depends what sort of timeline. You don't need design teams to interact by the second. Always. I mean, we've been working for 3 years by just FTP. Like, if you can get a model on a daily basis or weekly basis, whatever's agreed between the design team, that's how you work. I mean, the structure engineer, the architect, the MEP are all working in their own models anyway. So if you agree, like, we're going to get together in the model once a week or once a day.
But isn't there a danger you're working off an old model? You're working on something that's
well,
there's copy models.
I think the days of having a single model are still away. Like, design teams wouldn't trust each other enough to all be working on the same model. The structure engineer wants his own model. He wants to be in control of his own information. So does the architect. So does the MEP. So I think the initial stage will be what they call a federated BIM. It's 3 models that they come together, but everyone wants to be in control of their information. So that's stage one, in my opinion. The idea of everybody working in a single model would be a way ahead. You'd have to have design teams.
Is that where the integrated project delivery comes into play for, say, coordinating projects over teams?
Well, integrated project delivery means that you're integrating the process. You can do it with federated models or with integrated models. I mean, integrated models is the ultimate, that it's live and it's one model, it's one batch of information. So that shouldn't be an obstacle. Like, you can get started in BIM with separate models.
I prefer to work on my own model.
And you can get started in BIM. I think the message is you can get started in BIM without having fiber, internet access. You can.
But there's a problem. That's fine for design and when you're beginning design or focusing with. But for the contractor, that means BIM really isn't feasible yet. Really, so is it? Because there's no feedback from the actual building project back to the design for questioning.
What do you mean?
Well, you're talking about design engineers, structure engineers, all that talking between E. But how is the BIM applied to the actual physical building of the project then? That stage still isn't available yet.
So it is, yeah. The huge amount of software. Fergus here has been killing himself on a thing called Vico for 12 months now, which is software that's used once you're on site to do your location-based quantities or tying your schedule into a flow line. There's a huge number of applications out there for contractors. I mean, even Navisworks for clash detection. I know Paul's are using it on a project. They're using a product called Synchro on a project in Vincent's Hospital for look-aheads for the week ahead to talk their contractors through or subcontractors through what's actually happening. They're using it for health and safety. They're using it for cost control. I mean, Navis would be quite strong in that area as well from Autodesk. But there's a huge amount of software. A lot of the stuff in the States has been done by contractors, and it's for what's called means and methods, where they will actually build a model from a set of 2D drawings themselves after they've won the job, and they will use it to do clash detection. They'll use it to actually see, well, how do we do it? Who's going to be working in what area at what time? How do we set the site up? How do we handle our craneage? There's a huge amount of stuff. I mean, Lang O'Rourke had a video up on YouTube about a project in London called the Cheese Grater, which really shows you cutting edge BIM and how they're using it. And it's contractors driving it in the States. The figures from Europe, from McGraw-Hill that Ralph spoke about, in Europe it's different in that it's been driven by engineers and architects. And it's for the past 5 years it seems to be driven by engineers and architects. The States, it's contractors who seem to be driving it. There's a lot there from contractors' point of view.
It also depends why you get involved in the process. Contractors are often getting involved earlier and earlier now, design and build, PPP and so on. So, the old traditional model coming in at the end, that's kind of changing as well, and that's part of that whole BIM revolution also. Sitting at the table with all of these people and getting involved in BIM earlier and earlier. But you're right, I mean, the contractors in America are spending a lot of money and getting return on their investment. They're actually proving it's worth it to them to actually do what Trevor just said there. And there's a lot of actually hard evidence of saving serious amounts of money on projects.
I mean, we're trying to get a contract
getting the coordination, through BIM, getting the coordination done earlier, means that you don't have so many revisions, and you get it right.
Okay, any other clarifying questions?
No, just one more if I could. Yeah. From looking at the internet, or looking at user groups and all that, ownership of the model seems to be a problem that people keep saying it's a block to build. Is that a problem in Ireland, or have you found it a problem?
I think people are making a problem, but it's ownership. It's like buying a book. You don't own the book. You can't go and resell it. You can use it. The same with models, CAD drawings, paper copies. Nobody can go and copy the.
I think that's
put it into the library.
Well, I think at the moment people probably see it as an investment, but that's all going to become free. If you look at in the United States, all the manufacturers are providing the libraries of objects, so at the moment we might not have access to a lot of library elements, and we'll have to create them. And you think it's an investment, but in a few years' time, NBS are already working on a national BIM library, so it won't be a commodity later. I mean, it might be now. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sure this will go on and on. Just to thank the speakers, and to thank Suzanne for organising the event, for Barbara and all her hard work, and for you to make the effort coming out this evening. And we would very much hope with your support, that we would come down again to Cork, and perhaps we could start on a quarterly basis, but if there was a demand we would come here each month, and maybe we might see a group within Cork sort of starting to kind of organise these meetings. There is a little sort of sheet of paper that if you get a moment you might complete. Particularly interested to find out, yes, we'd like you to join, and there is a membership form there, but that's something that you'd have to make, you know, that's your own decision, so to speak, but we would hope that you could see the benefits of joining us. But also we'd like to hear what type of ideas you might have that we could address in future meetings. If you can't physically be at one of the meetings, you could join us online, and we'll send you notifications of all of the things. And I also, at the very start, I mentioned an idea that we had, this idea of trying to cluster the SMEs together. And we have some funding available from Enterprise Ireland. They sit on our steering group. They're always watching to make sure that we're spending every penny frugally or every cent frugally. So they've pushed us along this idea of trying to develop something for the members so that they could cluster, come together, collaborate more effectively. So any ideas you have in that area, or any, if you'd like to get involved in any way in that initiative, we'd be glad to hear from you. There is a, yeah.
I forgot to leave the line. If you put your name and your company on that sheet if possible, it's just so I know that it's mentioned on it.
Barbara has a sheet for CPD points available in the architect, so if you need that sheet signed, it goes on the way out. And again, just to say thank you to Rob and to Gerald for 2 excellent presentations, and hope to see you at some future meetings.
I might just remind CITA ran a series of these monthly meetings all of last year, and there's about 10 or 11 different presentations up on YouTube from all of last year, from all of the BIM vendors, like from Tekla, from Autodesk, from Archicad, and they're worth having a look at. It gives you an overview of how different companies see BIM. And there's one up on Synchro for contractors. So there's a lot of stuff on YouTube from CITA at the moment, and it's worth having a quick look at.
Yeah, okay. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Just say that Steve Hopkins managers the committee wants to.
Yeah, on the foyer, yeah.